Steve Harvey had hosted Family Feud for over 12 years, meeting hundreds of families from every corner of America. He had witnessed tearful reunions, surprising victories, and countless moments of pure joy on his stage. But nothing in his extensive television career could have prepared him for what was about to unfold on that October afternoon in 2024. What started as an ordinary game show taping would transform into one of the most shocking revelations in the show's history, exposing a web of lies so intricate that even the most skeptical viewers would be left speechless. Before we dive into this unbelievable true story, if you love watching justice being served and truth coming to light, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. You will not want to miss stories like this that prove the truth always finds its way to the surface, no matter how deeply someone tries to bury it. The Thompson family from Columbus, Ohio, had made it through the preliminary rounds and now stood on the Family Feud stage for the fast money round. Marcus Thompson was 45 years old, with a friendly smile and the kind of easy charm that made people trust him immediately. He wore an expensive watch and designer clothes that suggested success and prosperity. His wife, Patricia Thompson, was 43 years old, and she stood beside him wearing a simple dress that looked modest compared to her husband's flashy attire. They had been married for 21 years and had 3 teenage children who were watching from the audience area with other family members. Patricia worked as an elementary school teacher, a job she had held for 18 years. She was beloved by her students and colleagues, known for her patience, kindness, and dedication to helping children learn and grow. Marcus had told everyone that he worked as a regional sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, a position that required frequent travel and long hours, but provided well for the family. He was often away from home for days at a time, sometimes even weeks, traveling to different cities for important meetings and client presentations. What nobody knew, what Patricia herself had only discovered 2 weeks earlier, was that Marcus Thompson did not work for any pharmaceutical company. In fact, Marcus had lost his sales job 3 years ago and had never told his wife. For 3 full years, Marcus had been living a completely fabricated life. Every morning, he would leave the house in his business clothes, carrying his briefcase and laptop, telling Patricia he was heading to the office or catching a flight for a business trip. But Marcus was not going to any office. He was not boarding any planes. He was not meeting any clients. Instead, Marcus had been spending his days at coffee shops, libraries, and budget hotels, maintaining the elaborate illusion of employment while secretly draining their retirement savings and taking out loans in both their names to pay for his lifestyle and cover household expenses. The discovery had come about by accident. Patricia had been trying to refinalize their mortgage when the bank officer mentioned some concerning loan activity. When Patricia expressed confusion, saying she had not authorized any loans, the officer showed her documentation with both her and Marcus's signatures. The signature that was supposedly Patricia's was a crude forgery, but it had been enough to secure thousands of dollars in debt. Shocked and confused, Patricia had started investigating. What she found was devastating. Marcus had taken out over $80,000 in loans and credit card debt over the past 3 years. He had emptied their retirement accounts. He had borrowed money from friends using fabricated stories about investment opportunities. He had even taken a second mortgage on their house without Patricia's knowledge, forging her signature on the documents. When Patricia confronted him initially at home, Marcus had denied everything. He claimed there must be some mistake, some identity theft situation that they would sort out together. He had been so convincing, so earnest in his concern, that Patricia had almost believed him. Almost. But Patricia was not a fool. She was a teacher who had spent nearly 2 decades helping children learn critical thinking skills and understanding consequences. She started digging deeper, and what she uncovered was a trail of lies so extensive that it took her breath away. Marcus had created fake pay stubs to show her. He had elaborate stories about his job, complete with fictional coworkers whose names he mentioned regularly. He had even staged phone calls, pretending to speak with his boss or colleagues while Patricia was within earshot. The deception was not just financial. It was psychological. Marcus had constructed an entire alternate reality and had convinced everyone, including his own wife and children, that it was true. Patricia made a decision. She would not confront Marcus again in private where he could lie and manipulate and control the narrative. Instead, she would wait. The Thompson family had been scheduled to appear on Family Feud for 3 months, having been selected from thousands of applicants. Patricia decided that national television, with millions of witnesses and cameras recording every moment, would be the perfect place to expose her husband's lies. She wanted Marcus to face consequences in a setting where he could not charm his way out, where he could not make her doubt her own discovery, where the truth would be undeniable and permanent. So Patricia had stayed quiet for 2 weeks, acting as though everything was normal. She had smiled at Marcus over breakfast. She had kissed him goodbye when he left for his fake job. She had discussed their upcoming Family Feud appearance with apparent excitement. And all the while, she had been gathering documents, printing bank statements, and preparing for the moment when she would reveal everything. Now they stood on the Family Feud stage, and Marcus had just completed his fast money round, scoring 132 points. It was a decent score, and he had returned to his family looking confident and pleased with himself. Patricia stepped up to the podium, and Steve Harvey noticed immediately that something seemed different about her. Her hands were not shaking with typical game show nerves. Instead, there was a stillness about her, a sense of purpose that seemed almost out of place in the cheerful game show environment. Steve began his usual encouraging speech. "Patricia, your husband Marcus got 132 points. You just need 68 more to win this $20,000 for your family." Patricia looked at Steve Harvey, then turned to look directly at the camera, and what she said next would stop the entire studio cold. "Mr. Harvey, before we play, I need to tell you and everyone watching something about my husband Marcus. He does not work for a pharmaceutical company. In fact, Marcus has not had a job for 3 years. He has been lying to me, to our children, to everyone we know for 3 solid years." The audience gasped collectively. Steve Harvey's smile froze on his face. Marcus, standing off to the side, went completely pale. Patricia continued, her voice steady and clear. "Every single morning for 3 years, my husband has gotten dressed in his business clothes, picked up his briefcase, kissed me goodbye, and pretended to go to work. But he was not going to work. He was going to coffee shops and libraries and cheap hotels, spending our money and living a lie." The camera cut to Marcus, whose face had gone from pale to bright red. He looked like he wanted to run off the stage, but there was nowhere to go. Everyone was watching. Patricia kept speaking. 3 years ago, Marcus lost his sales job. Instead of telling me, instead of being honest so we could face the situation together as partners, he decided to lie. He created fake pay stubs. He made up stories about coworkers and business trips. He staged phone calls. He built an entire fake life. And to fund this lie, to maintain his lifestyle and pay our bills without me knowing he had no income, Marcus took out loans in both our names. He forged my signature on documents. He emptied our retirement accounts that we had been building for 20 years. He took out a second mortgage on our house without my knowledge or consent. He borrowed money from friends with fake investment stories. In total, my husband has put us over $80,000 in debt and destroyed our financial security, all while lying to my face every single day. Steve Harvey stood completely still, his expression one of absolute shock. The studio audience was silent except for a few scattered gasps and murmurs of disbelief. This was unprecedented in the show's history. Patricia turned to look at Marcus directly. "You made me believe in a life that did not exist. You made our children proud of a career you did not have. You destroyed our savings, our credit, our financial future, and you did it all while acting like a devoted husband and father. Every time you kissed me goodbye and told me you loved me before heading to your fake job, that was a lie. Every time you complained about a difficult day at the office that never happened, that was a lie. Every single moment of our life for 3 years has been built on your deception." Steve Harvey found his voice, though it was clear he was struggling to process what he had just heard. "Marcus, is this true? Did you really do all of this?" Marcus stammered, trying to form words, but nothing coherent came out. Finally, he managed to speak. "Patricia, please, not here. We can talk about this at home. Let me explain. There is no explanation that makes this okay, Marcus," Patricia said firmly. "You had 3 years to explain. You had 1,000 opportunities to tell me the truth. You chose to lie every single time. So no, we are not talking about this at home where you can manipulate me and make me doubt what I know is true. We are talking about it here, right now, in front of all these witnesses." Steve turned to Patricia with an expression of deep respect mixed with concern. "Patricia, I have to ask, and please understand I am asking this with nothing but respect for what you are going through, but why here? Why expose this on national television?" Patricia had clearly anticipated this question. "Mr. Harvey, my husband is one of the most convincing liars I have ever met. He fooled me for 3 years. He fooled our children. He fooled our friends, our neighbors, even my own parents. If I confronted him at home, he would find a way to minimize it, to make excuses, to somehow turn it around and make me feel like I was overreacting. But here, on this stage, with cameras rolling and millions of people watching, he cannot do that. Here, the truth is just the truth. There is no way for him to talk his way out of it or control who knows what. The lies stop here today, right now. The audience began to applaud, slowly at first, then building into genuine supportive applause. Several women in the audience were nodding, and one shouted out, "You tell him, Patricia." Steve Harvey looked at Marcus with an expression that was a mixture of anger and disappointment. "Marcus, I have been doing this show for many years. I have seen all kinds of families, all kinds of situations. But this right here, what your wife just described, this is beyond anything I have encountered. You did not just lie about one thing. You constructed an entire false reality. You forged your wife's signature. You stole from your family's future. And you did it all while looking your wife and children in the eyes every day." Marcus tried to respond. "Steve, I made mistakes. I was ashamed when I lost my job, and I did not know how to tell Patricia. I thought I could find another position quickly, and then I would not have to worry her. But the job market was tough, and time kept passing, and the lie just got bigger and bigger. I never meant for it to go this far. Never meant for it to go this far." Patricia's voice rose slightly, the first real sign of the anger beneath her controlled exterior. "Marcus, you forged my signature. That was not a mistake. That was a crime. You took out loans in my name without my permission. That was fraud. You lied to our children about where you were going and what you were doing. That was not protecting them. That was using them as props in your elaborate deception." Steve nodded, clearly agreeing with Patricia's assessment. "Marcus, your wife is absolutely right. What you did was not just dishonest. It was illegal. Forgery, fraud, identity theft. These are serious crimes. And beyond the legal issues, you betrayed your family's trust in the most fundamental way possible. Your wife worked every day as a teacher, giving her time and energy to educate other people's children, believing that you were contributing to the household and building a future together. Instead, you were destroying everything she worked for." The camera panned to show the Thompson children in the audience. Their faces showed a mixture of shock, confusion, and dawning horror as they processed what their mother was revealing about their father. Patricia saw her children's faces, and her expression softened for a moment. "I am sorry you had to find out this way," she said to them. "But I needed you to hear the truth from me, not from your father's edited version of events. Your father is not a bad person, but he made terrible choices, and those choices have consequences. We will get through this together, and I promise you we will be okay, but we cannot heal from lies until we face the truth." Steve turned back to Patricia. "Patricia, you still have a game to play here. Do you want to continue? I will completely understand if you want to walk off this stage right now, but if you want to play, then let us play." Patricia straightened her shoulders. "Mr. Harvey, I came here to win money for my family. My real family, the people who have been honest and real and there for each other. I do not need Marcus's points. I do not want his contribution. I will win this money on my own, just like I have been handling everything else in our lives without even knowing it." Steve smiled, clearly impressed. "All right then, Patricia, let us do this. 20 seconds on the clock. Here we go." The questions began. "Name something you do every morning." "Brush teeth," Patricia answered immediately. "Name a job that requires a uniform." "Police officer," she replied. "Name something people lie about." "Their job," Patricia said, her voice loaded with obvious meaning. The audience erupted in supportive laughter and applause. "Name something you save money for." "Retirement," Patricia answered firmly, another pointed reference to what Marcus had stolen. "Name a reason you might not trust someone." "They lie to you," Patricia concluded. The buzzer sounded, and Steve looked at Patricia with admiration. "Patricia, let us see how you did. You said brush teeth for something you do every morning." Survey said number 1 answer, 38 points. The audience cheered. "You said police officer for a job that requires a uniform." Number 1 answer, 42 points. More cheers. "You said their job for something people lie about." The audience laughed again at the brutal honesty. Survey said, and the board showed it was the number 3 answer with 19 points, but still on the board. "For something you save money for," you said retirement. Number 1 answer, 34 points. The audience was getting louder with each answer. And finally, you said they lied to you as a reason you might not trust someone. The obvious nature of the answer made several audience members laugh. Survey said, number 1 answer, 52 points. Patricia had scored 185 points on her own. Combined with Marcus's 132, the family total was 317 points. But more importantly, Patricia had proven she could succeed entirely on her own merit. The audience gave her a standing ovation. Patricia stood at the podium, tears finally streaming down her face, but her posture remained strong. Steve Harvey approached her and spoke quietly, though his words were picked up by the microphone. "Patricia, you just proved something really important. You showed your children and everyone watching that you are strong enough to face hard truths and still succeed. That $20,000 is yours, and I hope it helps you and your kids start rebuilding what your husband destroyed." Patricia nodded, wiping her tears. "Thank you, Mr. Harvey. This money will go toward paying down the debt Marcus created and starting over." Steve turned to Marcus one final time. "Marcus, I hope you understand what you lost today. You had a wife who believed in you, children who looked up to you, and a life that was built on her hard work and trust. You threw that away for pride and lies. I do not know if your family will forgive you or if your marriage can survive this. But I do know that you have a lot of work to do to become the kind of man your wife and children deserve." The taping concluded with Patricia surrounded by her children, all of them embracing while Marcus stood apart, isolated by his own deception. The producers made an unusual decision. They would air the episode exactly as it happened, with no editing to soften the confrontation or protect Marcus from the consequences of his actions. They felt that Patricia's courage and the important message about honesty and consequences deserved to be shared in full. When the episode aired 4 weeks later, the response was immediate and overwhelming. The clip went viral within hours, generating millions of views and sparking intense discussions on social media. Some people criticized Patricia for exposing her husband publicly, arguing that such matters should remain private. But the vast majority of viewers supported her decision, with thousands of women sharing their own stories of financial deception and expressing admiration for Patricia's courage in demanding accountability. The story caught the attention of legal experts who pointed out that Marcus's actions constituted multiple crimes including forgery, fraud, and identity theft. Several district attorneys commented publicly that Patricia would have grounds to press charges if she chose to do so. Financial advisors used the Thompson case as a cautionary tale, encouraging couples to maintain transparency about finances and to regularly review bank statements and credit reports together. But perhaps the most significant response came from employers and human resources professionals. Many companies reached out to Patricia, offering her job opportunities with higher pay than her teaching position, recognizing the strength and integrity she had demonstrated. Patricia received offers for speaking engagements, with organizations wanting her to share her story and discuss financial literacy, recognizing deception in relationships, and finding the courage to face difficult truths. Patricia did accept one of the job offers, moving from teaching to a position as a family financial counselor, where she could use her experience to help other families avoid the pitfalls she had experienced. She also filed for divorce from Marcus, and the proceedings revealed even more troubling details about his deception. Marcus had been gambling online during many of the hours he claimed to be working, which explained part of where the money had gone. He had also been maintaining relationships with several women he had met online, telling them various stories about his life and profession, none of which were true. The divorce was finalized within 6 months, with Patricia receiving full custody of the children and Marcus being ordered to pay substantial child support and restitution for the debt he had created. Steve Harvey kept his promise to follow up with Patricia. 6 months after the original episode aired, he invited her back for a special segment. The transformation was remarkable. Patricia appeared confident and at peace, no longer carrying the weight of living in someone else's lie. She shared that she and her children were doing well. The 2 younger children had struggled initially with anger at their father, but family counseling had helped them process their feelings. Her oldest child had actually thanked her for exposing the truth, saying it taught an important lesson about integrity and the consequences of dishonesty. Patricia revealed that she had used the $20,000 from Family Feud to pay down a portion of the debt Marcus had created, and her new job with significantly higher pay was allowing her to steadily work through the rest. She had also started a blog called Truth and Consequences, where she shared her journey of rebuilding after financial betrayal. The blog had attracted thousands of followers, many of whom shared their own stories of deception and recovery. Patricia had become an unexpected advocate for financial transparency in marriages, arguing that both partners should always have full access to and knowledge of family finances. She worked with several organizations to promote financial literacy programs specifically designed to help people recognize and protect themselves from financial abuse. The follow-up segment also addressed what had happened to Marcus. He had been charged with multiple counts of fraud and forgery, ultimately pleading guilty to several charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. He served 8 months in county jail and was placed on probation for 3 years. He was ordered to pay restitution to Patricia for the debt he had created, though everyone acknowledged it would take him many years to fully repay what he had stolen. Marcus had lost contact with his children, who had expressed that they were not ready to have a relationship with him until he demonstrated genuine change and accountability over an extended period. During the follow-up segment, Steve Harvey shared something that moved the audience. He explained that after Patricia's original appearance, he had been struck by her courage and the important message her story conveyed. He announced that his foundation would be partnering with financial counseling organizations to create a scholarship program for people who had experienced financial abuse in relationships. The program would provide free financial counseling, legal assistance for dealing with fraudulent debt, and job training to help victims rebuild their economic independence. The scholarship would be named in honor of Patricia Thompson, recognizing her courage in exposing financial deception and her work in helping others avoid similar situations. Patricia's response captured the growth she had experienced in the months since her Family Feud appearance. "Mr. Harvey, 6 months ago I stood on your stage and exposed my husband's lies because I was tired of living in someone else's false reality. I was angry, hurt, and determined to make sure he could not control the narrative anymore, but something unexpected happened after that. I discovered that I was not alone. Thousands of people reached out to share similar stories. I learned that financial abuse and deception are far more common than most people realize, and I realized that my painful experience could actually help others if I was willing to turn my private pain into public advocacy." She continued, "This scholarship program will help people who are trapped in situations like I was, where someone they trusted has destroyed their financial security through lies and fraud. It will help them get legal help to separate themselves from fraudulent debt. It will provide counseling to help them process the emotional trauma of betrayal. And it will offer job training so they can build independent financial futures. I am so grateful that my moment of pain can be transformed into something that helps others heal and rebuild." The audience gave Patricia another standing ovation, many people openly crying at her words. Steve Harvey himself was visibly emotional. "Patricia, when you first stood on my stage and exposed your husband's lies, I thought that was the bravest thing I would see that day. But watching you turn that experience into advocacy and support for others, that is even more courageous. You could have taken your prize money, divorced your husband, and moved on with your life in private. Instead, you chose to stay visible to share your journey to help others who are suffering in silence. That is true strength." 3 years after her Family Feud appearance, Patricia's life had continued to evolve in positive directions. She had paid off all the fraudulent debt Marcus had created, rebuilt her credit score, and purchased a small house for herself and her children. Her blog had grown into a full website with resources for financial abuse survivors, including templates for documenting suspicious financial activity, guides for protecting your credit, and directories of legal aid organizations. She had co-authored a book titled Living Truth, Recovering from Financial Deception, which became a resource for therapists, financial counselors, and survivors. Her children had all thrived in the years since the divorce. Freed from living in their father's elaborate lie, they had developed strong senses of integrity and the importance of honesty. Her oldest child had chosen to study criminal justice in college, specifically interested in financial crimes, directly inspired by their mother's experience and courage. Patricia's story had become something larger than just one woman's moment of confrontation on a game show. It had become a case study in how financial abuse operates, how deception damages families, and how truth and accountability, even when painful, ultimately create the foundation for healing and growth. Steve Harvey reflected on Patricia's appearance in multiple interviews over the years, consistently calling it one of the most impactful moments in his television career. He explained that it had changed how he viewed his role as a host, making him more aware that behind every family on his stage was a real story with real stakes. The Thompson episode had taught him that sometimes the most important thing a host could do was step back and let truth unfold, no matter how uncomfortable it made everyone feel. The episode had also sparked broader conversations about honesty in relationships, financial transparency, and the psychological impact of living with someone who maintains elaborate deceptions. Marriage counselors reported increased awareness of financial abuse as a form of domestic abuse, with more people recognizing that controlling, hiding, or lying about money was not just irresponsible but actively harmful. Financial institutions implemented new policies to help protect people from having accounts opened or loans taken in their names without authorization, directly inspired by cases like Patricia's. Before we close this remarkable story, I want to remind you to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel if you appreciate stories about courage, truth, and justice. Patricia's story shows us that sometimes the hardest truths need to be spoken in public spaces where lies cannot survive. Your subscription helps us continue sharing these powerful moments that remind us all why honesty and integrity matter in our relationships and our lives. Click that notification bell so you never miss these important stories that inspire us to live with truth and courage. Patricia Thompson's appearance on Family Feud became more than just a viral moment or a shocking television episode. It became a symbol of the power of truth, the importance of financial honesty in relationships, and the possibility of rebuilding after betrayal. Her story demonstrated that sometimes the most radical act is refusing to let someone else's lies define your reality, even if exposing those lies means doing so on national television in front of millions of witnesses. It showed that strength is not always about holding families together at any cost, but sometimes about having the courage to let the truth tear down false foundations so something real and honest can be built in their place. Patricia's journey from that moment of confrontation to her current work, helping others, proved that our most painful experiences, when faced with courage and integrity, can become our greatest sources of strength and our most powerful tools for helping others. The story reminds us all that game shows, at their best, are not just about entertainment and prizes. They are about real people facing real challenges, and sometimes those challenges unfold in ways that teach us all important lessons about honesty, accountability, and the courage it takes to demand truth when everyone around you has become comfortable with lies.